The night fell heavy over the settlement. The winds grew louder, whistling through broken walls and empty streets. In the small hut, the fire had burned low. Its faint glow wrapped the little alien girl in warmth, but she could not sleep. Her wide eyes stared at the ceiling, fear twisting inside her chest. The human sat close to the door, his back straight, his blade across his knees. His ears listened carefully. He could hear the whispers in the distance, voices rising, then fading. They were gathering, waiting for the darkness to cover their cruelty. He knew what was coming. The girl pulled the blanket tighter around herself. Her voice trembled. "They'll come, won't they?" He turned his head slowly, his eyes steady. "Yes." She swallowed hard. "They'll kill you. They'll kill us both." His jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "Not if we move before they do." She blinked, confused. "Move? But I can't walk." He leaned closer, his voice firm. "Then I'll walk for both of us." Her throat tightened. Her small hand gripped the edge of his sleeve. "Why risk your life for me?" His eyes darkened with old memories. "Because I refuse to let another child be lost while I still breathe." Before she could answer, the sound came. Footsteps, many of them, stomping closer, torches flickering outside. Laughter, sharp and cruel, echoed down the street. The girl froze, terror gripping her body. The human rose, slipping his blade into its sheath. He bent down and lifted her into his arms. Her small body clung to him, trembling. He whispered, "Hold on, don't let go." Then, without another word, he kicked open the back of the hut. The door splintered as he stepped into the night. The cold air bit at their skin, but he did not slow. His legs carried them quickly across the dark alleys. Behind them, shouts erupted. "There! The human has the cursed child. Catch him!" Torches flared. Chasing shadows danced across broken walls. The hunt had begun. The girl buried her face against his chest, whispering, "They'll catch us. They always do." His grip tightened. "Not tonight." His voice was steel. He sprinted into the ruins, weaving through narrow passages. His boots struck the stone with heavy rhythm, echoing into the night. The pursuers grew louder, closer. The sound of clashing feet and rattling weapons filled the air. The human darted into an abandoned alley, ducking behind collapsed stone pillars. He pressed his back to the wall, his breath steady despite the run. The girl clung to him, her heart racing. Torches passed nearby. Shadows stretched long across the stones. Voices snarled, "Find them! Don't let the human escape!" The girl squeezed her eyes shut, holding her breath. She prayed they would not be seen. The human waited, his muscles tense. When the voices faded, he slipped out, carrying her deeper into the ruins. They moved like shadows, but the chase did not end. The crowd split into groups, spreading across the settlement. The hunters were everywhere. At last, he reached the edge of the town, where jagged cliffs overlooked the dark plains. The girl lifted her head weakly. "Where are we going?" He looked ahead, his eyes narrowed. "To the caves. If we reach them, they cannot follow." She shivered, whispering, "The caves are cold, dangerous." He nodded. "Better cold than dead." Suddenly, a voice shouted from behind, "There! Don't let them escape." The torches flared again. Their enemies were closing in. The human ran toward the cliffs, his legs burning with strength. He clutched the girl tighter, her breath fast against his chest. They reached the edge, a narrow path winding down into darkness. The human stepped onto it without fear. His boots slid on loose stones, but he did not stop. The girl whimpered softly. "We'll fall," he whispered. "Trust me." Shouts echoed above. Stones tumbled as the hunters followed. The human moved quickly, his balance steady even on the sharp rocks. The girl's eyes were wide, staring into the black mouth of the cave below. For the first time, she wondered, was this human even mortal? Or something stronger, born to survive what others feared? Finally, they reached the cave. The air was freezing. Their breaths turned to mist. The human set her down gently against the wall. His own breath heavy but controlled. He crouched, pulling out a torch from his pack. He lit it quickly, the flame pushing back the shadows. The girl huddled close, whispering, "They'll find us here." He looked into the black tunnel stretching deeper into the cave. "Maybe," his voice grew firm, "but if they do, I'll make sure they never touch you." Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Why do you care so much? I am nothing, I am broken." He shook his head slowly, kneeling down so their eyes met. "You are not nothing. You are not broken. You are a life worth saving, and as long as I live, you are not alone." Her tears spilled down her face. She pressed her small hands against her chest, whispering, "Then, maybe I can believe you." The echoes of footsteps rumbled above the cave. The hunters were still searching. Their voices carried on the wind. The human's eyes burned in the torchlight. His hand rested on his blade once more. He knew the night was far from over. The girl leaned against the cold stone, her eyelids heavy. Yet for the first time, she did not tremble as she closed her eyes. The human's presence was like a shield, strong and unyielding. The storm outside raged on. The hunt continued, but inside the cave, a fragile bond grew stronger. One made not of blood, but of courage and hope, to be continued. The dawn came slowly, its pale light slipping through the cracks of the old hut. The fire had burned to ash, and the room was cold. The human sat with his back against the wall, his blade still resting at his side. His eyes were red from staying awake, but his body was steady. Beside him, the little alien girl stirred under the thin blanket. She blinked, her small eyes adjusting to the light. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then she saw him, still there, still watching over her. Her lips trembled. "You didn't leave," she whispered weakly. The human shook his head slowly. "I said I wouldn't." His voice was calm, but inside, his chest tightened. He had seen many battles, many faces come and go, but the way this small child looked at him was different. It was as if she had never believed anyone could stay. She tried to sit up, her thin arms shaking, but her legs failed her. She sighed, staring down at them with pain in her eyes. "I'm broken," she whispered. "I can't walk. I can't do anything." Her voice cracked, carrying years of despair in just a few words. The human leaned closer, his voice steady and warm. "You are not broken. You are alive, and that means you still have a chance." The girl shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. "No one wants me. No one ever will." He pulled out a small pack from his bag and began arranging supplies. Dry food, water, scraps of cloth. He moved with quiet purpose, his hand steady, strong, as if building something invisible. He looked at her and said, "Then I will want you. I will carry you if I must, but I will never throw you away." Her breath caught in her throat. No one had ever said such words to her. She watched him silently, her chest rising and falling faster. Slowly, she whispered, "Why? Why me?" He paused, his eyes shadowed, his voice lowered. "Because once, long ago, I could not save someone. I won't make that mistake again." The girl did not understand everything, but she felt the weight of his sorrow. She reached out with trembling fingers and touched his hand, just lightly, as if afraid he would pull away, but he didn't. He turned his palm and held her hand in his. Time passed, and the human began working on the hut. He patched cracks with wood scraps, built a small fire pit from stones, and searched outside for anything useful. The girl lay watching him, her eyes wide. Every move he made filled her with wonder. For so long she had been invisible, ignored. Now, someone was making a place where she mattered. When he returned inside, carrying a bundle of sticks, she whispered, "Why do this? For me." He set the wood down and nodded. "Because you deserve shelter, you deserve warmth, you deserve life." Her eyes glistened, and she pressed the blanket closer around her body. No one ever said that before. He crouched near the fire and lit the sticks. Flames crackled, filling the hut with light and heat. The girl stared at the fire as if it was magic. Her face, once pale with cold, glowed softly. She whispered, "It feels safe." The human smiled faintly. "That's the way it should be." He handed her a piece of dried fruit. "Eat, you'll need strength." She bit into it carefully, chewing slowly, savoring every taste as if it was treasure. But peace never lasted. Outside, voices drifted on the wind, harsh and angry. The human's face hardened. He knew the crowd had not forgotten. They would come again, not just with words, but with violence. The girl heard it too, her small body shaking. "They're coming back, aren't they?" she whispered. He looked into her eyes. "Yes." She clutched the blanket, fear rising in her chest. "They'll hurt you because of me?" He reached out, placing his hand gently on her head. "Let them try. I will not let them take you." Her tears fell, not only from fear, but from something deeper. She had never been protected, never been chosen. Yet this human, a stranger from another world, was willing to fight for her. She whispered, "Why do you care so much?" He looked into the fire, his eyes distant. "Because someone should have cared long before me, because you are a child, and children should never be left to die." His voice was steady, but she could hear the pain hidden behind it. As the day stretched on, the human began searching his pack again, pulling out tools, metal scraps, and rope. The girl tilted her head, confused. "What are you doing?" He glanced at her, his eyes thoughtful. "I'm thinking. Maybe I can make something to help you walk again." Her breath caught, her heart racing. She shook her head quickly. "No, it's impossible, my legs. They don't work. They never will." He smiled faintly. "I've seen machines fly in the sky. I've seen weapons break stone walls. If such things are possible, then so is this." She stared at him, her mouth opening but no words coming out. For the first time in her life, someone dared to imagine a future for her. A future where she was not crawling in the dirt, but standing, walking, living. The human began arranging the scraps, his hands moving with skill and determination. The girl lay under the blanket, watching him as the fire flickered. Her heart beat faster, filled with something she had never felt before, hope. But outside, the settlement stirred. Shadows gathered, voices whispered of anger and revenge. The enemies had not forgotten, and soon they would return. To be continued. The streets of the alien settlement were silent. Broken houses leaned against each other like tired giants. The ground was covered with cold dust, and the air smelled of smoke and rust. Most people hurried along, not looking left or right, their faces hard and empty. In the corner of the street, near a collapsed wall, lay a small alien girl. She was thin, her skin pale from hunger, her legs were twisted, unable to carry her weight. She had tried to crawl, but the sharp stones had cut her arms. Still, no one stopped to help her. Some people walked past her as if she was invisible, others glanced and quickly looked away, pretending not to see. A few even laughed, shaking their heads, calling her broken. The girl's large eyes followed the people. She wanted to cry for help, but her voice was too weak. She whispered in her own language, words that sounded like prayers. Her little hands pressed into the dirt, dragging herself forward inch by inch. She was looking for water, for food, for anything that could give her strength, but everywhere she looked, there was only rejection. For a moment, she closed her eyes. Her body trembled with cold wind. She thought maybe this was the end. Maybe she would die alone in the dust. The thought hurt, but it was also almost peaceful, because no one seemed to care. Her heart beat slower, her breath came weaker, and then, a shadow fell over her. The girl opened her eyes and saw boots. Not the heavy boots of the aliens she knew, but something different. She looked up and froze. A human stood there, tall and strange. His face hidden under a hood, his eyes, sharp and full of fire, studied her carefully. For a long moment he said nothing, he only looked at her. His gaze moved from her dirty hands to her twisted legs. He seemed angry, but not at her, angry at the world that had left her like this. The girl tried to shrink back, afraid he would kick her aside like the others did. Instead, the human knelt down. "Are you alive?" His voice was rough but not cruel. The girl did not understand the words, but she felt the tone. It was not mocking, not hateful. It carried something she had not heard before. Concern? She blinked at him, her lips shaking. "Don't touch me," she whispered weakly. Her voice cracked. She remembered the voices of the crowd who had called her worthless. She thought maybe this human would say the same, but he did not. He opened a small flask and poured water into his hand, holding it out to her. The girl stared at the water, her throat dry and burning. She wanted to drink, but her fear held her back. She thought, what if this was a trick? What if kindness was just another way to laugh at her? The human waited. His hand did not move. His eyes softened, showing patience. Finally, the girl leaned forward, licking the water from his palm. It was cold, sweet, the best taste she could remember. A single tear slid down her cheek. "You're safe," he whispered, though she could not understand the words, but she felt them. Something inside her small chest stirred. Something she thought was lost, hope. Then voices echoed down the street. A group of aliens was approaching, laughing and pointing. They had seen the human kneeling beside the broken girl. One shouted, "Why waste your time on garbage?" Another threw a stone that landed near them. The girl flinched, curling into herself. The human stood up, tall and unshaken. His shadow covered her like a shield. His eyes burned as he faced the crowd. The girl peeked up at him, her tiny heart racing. For the first time in her life, someone was standing for her. But the question remained, would he fight for her or would he leave like everyone else had? To be continued. The cave was silent except for the sound of dripping water. The little alien girl sat wrapped in her blanket. Her braces still fastened around her thin legs. She stared at the human with wide eyes, fear and hope battling inside her chest. Outside, the glow of torches flickered, shadows crawling along the cave walls. The voices of the hunters echoed faintly, growing closer. The human stood tall, his blade in hand. His eyes scanned the cave entrance. He was ready. His voice came low, steady. "They are close, but this ends tonight." The girl's heart pounded. "They'll kill us, won't they?" Her voice cracked like fragile glass. The human turned to her, his eyes burning with quiet fire. "Not us," he said firmly. "Only those who try to harm you." His words sank into her chest like warmth against the cold. The sound of footsteps filled the cave entrance. Then came the first torch, glowing like a red eye in the dark. The hunters spilled inside, snarling, weapons clutched in their hands. Their leader sneered. "There you are, human, hiding in the dark with that cursed child. Tonight it ends." The girl whimpered, shrinking against the wall. But the human stepped forward, his shadow covering her. His blade gleamed in the firelight. His voice was calm but sharp. "Tonight it ends, yes, but not how you think." The hunters roared and rushed forward. The clash filled the cave, steel against steel, firelight flashing on stone. The human moved like a storm, his strikes sharp, his defense unbreakable. Each blow pushed the hunters back. Their laughter turned into curses, their confidence fading. The girl could only watch, her heart racing. She wanted to close her eyes, but she could not. Her gaze locked on him. A single thought filled her mind. "He's fighting for me." One hunter broke through the line, charging toward her with a jagged spear. The girl screamed, but before the weapon touched her, the human was there. His blade struck fast, sending the attacker crashing to the ground. His voice thundered, "You will not touch her." The rest hesitated, fear creeping into their eyes. They had expected an easy kill, but this human fought with the strength of 10. The leader spat. "Why fight so hard for something broken?" The human's eyes narrowed. His voice rang loud through the cave. Because she is not broken. She is alive. She deserves a second chance. And I will give it to her even if it costs me my life. His words shook the cave as much as his blade did. For a moment, even the hunters faltered. The girl's tears streamed down her face. Her chest ached with something stronger than fear. Pride. The fight dragged on, but one by one, the hunters retreated. Some limped. Others carried their wounded. Their leader glared, but fear finally twisted his face. This isn't over, human? He hissed before vanishing into the shadows. The cave fell silent again. The human lowered his blade, breathing hard. His cheek was cut, his arm bruised, but he stood unbroken. The girl crawled forward, trembling. You didn't leave me." Her voice shook, full of awe. He knelt before her, his eyes soft now. "I told you I would never leave," she sobbed, her small hands clutching at his cloak. I thought no one would ever stay, but you did." He placed a hand gently on her head. "I stayed because you were worth staying for?" Her tears spilled, but this time they were not only from pain. They were from joy, from something she had never felt before. Belonging. The human helped her stand, guiding her braces. "Come," he said softly. "Walk with me." Her heart raced. Now? After all this? He nodded. Especially now. Her legs trembled as she leaned against him, step by shaky step. They moved slowly through the cave, each footfall echoing like a victory. She whispered, "I'm walking with you." He smiled faintly. "Yes, into tomorrow." When they finally reached the cave mouth, the storm outside had broken. The night sky was clear, filled with stars. The girl stopped, staring up at the endless sky, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's so big," she whispered. The human looked up too, his voice quiet. "Yes, big enough for a new life." She clutched his hand, her voice trembling. "Then, take me with you. Wherever you go, I will follow." His chest tightened. He squeezed her hand gently. "Then you'll never be alone again." The stars shone above them. The cold wind brushed their faces. Together, step by step, they walked out of the cave, leaving behind the dust, the fear, and the cruelty of the settlement. Ahead of them was a path unknown, but it was theirs. For the first time in her life, the little alien girl did not feel broken. She felt alive. She felt chosen. She felt safe. And beside her, the human knew he had kept his promise. He had given her a second chance. Together, they walked into tomorrow. The cave was dark and endless. The torchlight flickered against the stone walls, shadows stretching like tall monsters. The little alien girl lay wrapped in a blanket, her body weak, her breath soft. Yet her eyes never left the human, who moved with purpose in the cold silence. He had set his pack down and spread tools and scraps across the ground. Metal pieces, wire, leather straps. Things he had carried from long travels. The girl tilted her head, confused. "What are you doing?" she whispered. Her voice echoed faintly, as if the cave itself was listening. The human did not look up. His hands moved carefully, fitting metal with rope, shaping something slowly. His voice was steady. "I told you before. I will help you walk again." Her small heart skipped. She shook her head quickly. "No, you can't. My legs. They are useless. Everyone said I was broken. They laughed at me." Her voice cracked, filled with years of pain. "Nothing can change that." The human finally looked at her, his eyes sharp but kind. "They were wrong. You are not broken. You are waiting for a second chance." The girl stared at him, her lips trembling. His words felt impossible, yet they wrapped around her heart like warmth. She whispered, "Why? Why give me this chance?" He paused, his eyes darkened by memory. "Because once, I lost someone I cared for, someone I could not save. I will not let it happen again." The girl's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to ask who he had lost, but his eyes told her not to. The pain there was too deep, too heavy. Instead, she whispered, "Then, I will try." Hours passed as the human worked, his hands strong and sure. He shaped braces from metal, tightened straps of leather, and built a frame that could hold against weight. The sound of tools echoed in the cave like a rhythm of hope. The girl watched every movement, her wide eyes full of wonder, her chest ached with fear. Fear that it might fail, fear that she would disappoint him. But also with hope she had never known before. At last, he lifted the frame into the light of the torch. It looked strange, rough but strong. 2 braces joined by straps meant to hold her legs steady. He brought it to her, kneeling, his voice low. "This is not perfect, but it is a beginning." Her hands shook as she touched the cold metal. Her voice cracked. You really made this for me?" He nodded. "For you." With trembling hands, he strapped the braces onto her thin legs. The leather tightened, holding her limbs in place. The girl's breath came quick and shallow. Her heart raced as if it would burst. He stood and held out his arms. "Now, lean on me." She stared at him, terrified. "I'll fall." He nodded. "Then I will catch you." Her hands reached for him, her fingers small against his strong palms. Slowly, he lifted her to her feet. Her legs trembled violently, her body weak. She gasped in fear. I can't. He steadied her, his voice firm. "Yes, you can. Just one step." She cried, shaking her head, but he guided her, step by step. Her braces clinked softly against the stone. Her feet touched the ground, and for the first time in years, she was standing. Her tears fell fast, her breath shaking. She whispered, "I'm standing." The human's voice softened. "Yes, you are." She leaned heavily against him, taking another shaky step, then another. Her legs wobbled, and she almost collapsed, but his strong arms held her. Her sobs echoed in the cave. I thought I would never." He bent down, his voice low and steady. "This is your second chance. Don't waste it." The girl's tears dripped onto the stone floor. She nodded slowly, her small face glowing in the torchlight. Her voice trembled. "I won't. I promise." For a long time he helped her walk across the cave. Step after step, she stumbled, fell into his arms, then tried again. The more she tried, the brighter her eyes grew. At last, she sat down, exhausted, her body trembling from effort. But her face carried something new. Pride. She whispered. "I walked. Even if just a little, I walked." The human smiled faintly, his eyes soft. "And tomorrow you will walk more, and one day you will walk without me." Her heart ached at his words. She whispered quickly, "But I don't want to walk away from you." He paused, looking at her with quiet surprise. She lowered her gaze, whispering, "You're the only one who ever stayed. I don't want to lose you." He placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "You won't. I gave you my word." But outside the cave, the hunters had not given up. Torches burned brighter in the distance. Voices rose louder. The enemies had followed their trail. Their hatred had not cooled, it had only grown. The human heard the echoes and lifted his head. His eyes hardened. His voice dropped low. "They're coming." The girl's breath caught. She clutched the blanket, fear returning to her heart. He stood tall, his blade back in his hand, his voice steady as stone. "Let them come. They will find a girl who walks again, and a human who will never let her go." The girl's eyes widened, tears shining. She whispered softly, "With you. Maybe I'm not broken anymore." To be continued. The night was restless. Cold winds howled outside the broken hut, shaking the wooden walls. The little alien girl slept curled under the thin blanket, her fragile body finally finding warmth. But the human did not sleep. His sharp eyes stayed fixed on the door. His hand rested on the hilt of his blade. He knew the crowd would not stay quiet. He had seen their faces, twisted with anger and pride. They had mocked the girl for years, calling her worthless. They would not forgive a human for protecting her. They would see his kindness as weakness, and weakness was something they preyed upon. The first sign came with footsteps, heavy and careless, echoing through the empty street. The human's head lifted. He heard laughter, low, cruel, the sound of many feet. The girl stirred in her sleep, whispering softly, clutching the blanket tighter. The door burst open, and several aliens stumbled inside. Their eyes shining with hate, the biggest one sneered. "There you are, human. We told you she's garbage, and still you carry her like treasure." He spat on the floor. "Leave her, and we'll let you walk away." The girl's eyes opened wide. She froze when she saw them. Her whole body shook. She whispered, "No, no, please, don't take me." Her voice cracked with terror. She tried to crawl back into the corner, but her legs betrayed her. The human stood. His tall frame filled the room. His eyes burned with fire. He spoke in a calm, steady voice. "You had your chance to care for her. You chose cruelty. Now she is mine to protect." The aliens laughed, one of them stepping forward. "Protect her? She can't even walk. She is nothing but dead weight. You'll starve because of her. You'll die because of her." The human's jaw tightened. His voice dropped low, almost a growl. "Then I'll die with honor, not like cowards who attack children." The room fell silent for a moment. The girl stared at him, her eyes wide with shock. No one had ever spoken for her like this. No one had ever called her worth fighting for. The largest alien roared with anger and swung his arm. The human moved fast, catching the blow and shoving him back. The others hissed, ready to jump. The girl cried out, "Stop, please!" But her voice was drowned in the chaos. The fight began. The human dodged and struck, his movements sharp and controlled. He fought not with wild rage, but with purpose. Each punch, each step, was to keep the attackers away from the girl. She watched, her heart pounding, torn between fear and awe. One alien grabbed a wooden pole and charged. The human caught it. Twisting it from his hands, he struck back, knocking the alien to the ground. The others hesitated, fear flashing in their eyes. They had not expected the stranger to fight with such strength. Finally, the biggest one shouted, "Enough! He's not worth it. The girl is cursed. Let him suffer with her." With that, they backed away, spitting curses, and disappeared into the night. The human stood breathing hard, blood running from a cut on his cheek. He wiped it with the back of his hand and turned to the girl. She was crying silently, her hands pressed to her mouth. She whispered, You fought for me." Her voice was trembling, filled with disbelief. He knelt beside her, his voice softer now. "I will fight for you as many times as it takes." She covered her face, tears streaming. Her heart ached, not from pain, but from something new, hope. He gave her water, then gently laid her back on the blanket. "Rest now, you're safe." She shook her head, whispering, "They'll come back. They always come back." He looked into her eyes, his voice firm. "Then I'll be here when they do." The girl's tears slowed. She stared at him, searching for any sign of lies, but found none. Slowly, her small hand reached out, trembling, and touched his sleeve. She whispered, "Don't leave me." His chest tightened at her words. He placed his hand gently over hers. "I won't." The night passed with silence, but the human did not close his eyes. He sat guard, watching over her as the fire burned low. He knew the danger was not gone. The crowd had been pushed back, but their hatred would grow. He had taken a stand, and now the entire settlement would see him as a threat. But as he looked at the fragile girl sleeping beside him, he knew he could not turn away. He had made his choice. She was no longer just a broken child to him. She was someone worth protecting, worth fighting for, worth giving a second chance. Outside, the wind carried the whispers of the night, but inside, for the first time, the girl did not cry herself to sleep. To be continued. The human stood firm in the dust, his tall figure blocking the cruel stares of the crowd. The little alien girl lay trembling at his feet, her broken body pressed into the ground. The other aliens kept laughing, their voices sharp and cold like knives. They shouted words the girl knew too well. Useless, worthless, broken. The human did not move away. His eyes scanned the faces of the mocking crowd, his jaw clenched tight. His voice finally broke through the noise, deep and steady. "If she is worthless," he said, "then why am I the one who sees her worth?" The crowd grew quiet for a moment. Their laughter faded into whispers. They had never heard a human speak with such fire, especially for a child who was not his own. But then one of them sneered. "Take her then, human. She will only slow you down. She cannot walk. She cannot work. She will bring you nothing but misery." The human's hands tightened into fists. The girl's wide eyes filled with fear. She pulled at the edge of his cloak and whispered weakly, "Don't fight them. Please, don't fight." Her voice was soft like falling snow. He looked down at her, and for a second, he forgot the world around them. He saw her, small, fragile, yet still alive, still holding on. He knelt again, bringing his face close to hers. "You are not garbage," he said slowly, hoping she could feel the meaning. She blinked, not understanding the words but sensing the weight of them. Her chest ached. Her throat tightened. No one had ever said such things to her before. The human pulled out a small piece of bread from his pack. He broke it into tiny pieces and placed one in her hand. The girl stared at it, her thin fingers shaking. For a moment she hesitated, then hunger won over fear. She placed it in her mouth. Her eyes watered as she chewed slowly, tasting warmth for the first time in weeks. The crowd continued to jeer, but some grew restless. One alien spat on the ground. "You'll regret this, human. That thing is cursed. Leave her to rot where she belongs." The human ignored them. He placed his hand gently under the girl's shoulders and lifted her carefully. She gasped in shock, her body stiff. She had not been held in so long. She feared he might drop her. But his grip was steady, his arms were strong, and for the first time, she felt safe. He turned away from the crowd, stepping slowly down the empty street. Each step echoed in the silence. The girl's head rested against his chest. She could hear his heart beating. A steady, powerful sound, different from the cruel voices she had known all her life. As he carried her, she whispered in a trembling voice, Why help me?" Her eyes searched his face, looking for answers. The human looked down. His lips pressed together. He did not answer right away. His eyes were far away, as if remembering something lost. Finally, he said, "Because no one else would." His voice was heavy, filled with pain. She did not understand all his words, but the tone made her chest warm. She closed her eyes, whispering, "Then thank you." The human carried her until they reached the edge of the settlement. Beyond the ruins stood an old hut, broken but still standing. He pushed the door open with his boot and stepped inside. The air was musty, the walls cracked, but it was shelter from the wind. He set her down gently on a blanket he laid across the floor. The girl looked around, her small hands gripping the blanket. She whispered, "This, for me?" He nodded, placing another piece of bread in her hand. She ate slowly, tears falling down her cheeks. She had never been treated like this, never thought anyone would share food with her. The human sat nearby, his back against the wall, watching her carefully. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. "You are not broken, you are alive, that is enough." The girl stared at him, her heart thudding. She didn't know how long he would stay, or if he would leave like the others. But in that moment, she believed his words. The night grew colder, and outside the wind howled through the ruins. The girl curled under the blanket, her eyes heavy, before sleep took her. She whispered one last thought. Maybe I don't have to be alone anymore." The human sat awake, his eyes on the doorway, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. He had seen the looks in the crowd. He knew they would not forgive him for standing up to them. Somewhere out there, enemies were already whispering, plotting. The fire inside the hut flickered low. The girl slept peacefully for the first time in years. But the human knew. Peace never lasted long. Danger was coming. To be continued.